It was a routine political roundtable airing live across national television networks, featuring voices from all sides of the aisle. But no one anticipated the shocking turn it would take. Jasmine Crockett, the outspoken congresswoman who has never hesitated to confront power, was invited to discuss family values, leadership credibility, and the moral compass of those aspiring to represent America at its highest levels. The panel included notable Republican figures, and among them was a Trump-aligned surrogate defending the former president's past actions. But Crockett, in her unmistakable style, came armed with more than just political rhetoric. With calm precision, she began outlining patterns of hypocrisy. And then, like a thunderclap, dropped a bombshell about Trump's marriage that left the studio in stunned silence. "Let's stop pretending," she said. "If we want to talk about traditional family values, we have to address how Donald Trump treated every woman he's ever been married to, including Melania. Because America saw what she went through, and some of us haven't forgotten." The comments sent shockwaves through the panel. The host attempted to pivot, clearly shaken, but Crockett wasn't finished. She leaned in, looked directly into the camera, and added, "We watched Melania slap his hand away. We watched her look down when he spoke about loyalty. We heard the recordings of hush money payments. And now you're asking me about morals? Let's talk about what kind of marriage we're glorifying." Social media exploded. Clips of her statement were instantly clipped, reposted, and dissected. Hashtags like Crockett Truth Bomb and Trump Marriage Exposed trended on X, Instagram, and Xdode and YouTube. And even though Trump wasn't present on the panel, he clearly got the message. Within minutes, his Truth Social account lit up with all-caps rants targeting Crockett personally, calling her a disgrace, a nobody, and accusing her of spreading vile lies. But the damage had already been done. Millions had already heard what Crockett said, and millions were agreeing with her inside Trump's inner circle. Insiders reported sheer chaos. Melania, who has long maintained a low profile, was said to be furious not because of what Crockett revealed, but because of how accurate it was. According to a former White House aide, Melania had grown increasingly distant. Frustrated by the continued public humiliations and Trump's refusal to address past indiscretions with honesty, Crockett's words had simply pulled back the curtain on what many suspected for years but rarely said so publicly.
Outlets.
A Roweven bread. With headlines like Jasmine Crockett exposes Trump marriage, troubles on live TV, and Congresswoman's marriage remarks set off Trump tirade. Political commentators debated whether Crockett had gone too far or simply spoken a truth others were afraid to say. Either way, the nation was watching, and the reaction was not one of outrage, but of curiosity and newfound respect for the congresswoman who dared to speak what many were thinking. Crockett herself remained composed in the aftermath. She took to her own social media accounts, not to defend herself, but to double down. "Truth isn't disrespect," she posted. "If someone's marriage can't survive scrutiny, maybe the issue isn't the scrutiny, it's the marriage." Her post received over 500,000 likes in less than 24 hours. Support poured in from celebrities, activists, and even some moderate Republicans who quietly admitted they admired her courage. Meanwhile, Trump's defenders were left scrambling, trying to shift the narrative toward victimhood. Some accused Crockett of personal attacks, while others tried to revive old conspiracy theories about her. But none of it stuck. The more they pushed, the more attention they gave her words. Crockett, without raising her voice, had accomplished what countless pundits and politicians had failed to do. She got under Trump's skin in a way no one else could. The ripple effects reached beyond just television or tweets. Polls taken in the following week showed a noticeable shift among independent voters, especially women. Many respondents said Crockett's bluntness was refreshing and honest. A significant percentage admitted they had long been uncomfortable with the silence surrounding Trump's personal life, particularly how his wives were treated, but didn't know how to articulate it until Crockett did. Editorials followed, with major papers like the Washington Post and the Guardian publishing op-eds titled, "Crockett said what needed to be said, and the First Lady deserves truth too." The national conversation was no longer about whether Crockett was out of line. It was about why no one had been willing to say it sooner. The former president, always hungry for control of the narrative, was now reacting instead of directing, his fury only amplifying the conversation he wanted buried. Behind closed doors, Trump reportedly demanded loyalty oaths from his staff, and campaign members, furious that no one had anticipated Crockett's attack or prepared a counter-strategy. Meanwhile, Crockett was seen attending community forums, speaking not about Trump, but about the power of truth and the importance of integrity in leadership. Her message resonated especially with young women, who saw in her a role model unafraid of backlash. She told a crowd in Detroit, "When people say I hit a nerve, I tell them it's because the nerve was exposed and raw. Your truth is strong. No bombshell can shake it." That line was repeated in memes, sound bites, and even printed on protest signs. While Trump sulked in Florida, Crockett was rising, empowered, unbothered, and supported by a growing coalition of Americans. Tired of silence in political theater, Melanian's silence after the broadcast only deepened the intrigue. Every public movement of hers was scrutinized. Was she deliberately avoiding Trump? Was she preparing a tell-all? Sources close to her began to leak subtle hints. One even stated anonymously, "Jasmine wasn't wrong." The comment alone reignited tabloid speculation and political gossip, further embarrassing the former president. Crockett, for her part, refused to engage with Melanian's private situation, choosing instead to keep her focus on the double standards in American politics. In another televised interview, she explained, "When women of color speak up, we're called aggressive or inappropriate. But when others whisper the same truth, it's called concern. I don't whisper. I make sure it's heard." That unwavering stance, combined with her calm delivery, made her not just a trending topic, but a force in the national political conversation. Amid the frenzy, right-wing commentators attempted to shift the topic, dragging Crockett's own personal life into the spotlight. But every attempt backfired. Photos meant to expose her past only made her more relatable. Her old law school friends came forward in her defense. Former clients praised her integrity. In fact, the more they tried to smear her, the more her authenticity shined. One viral post said, "They're throwing dirt, but she's growing roots." It became clear that Crockett had touched on something deeper than politics. She had highlighted a glaring contradiction in the moral posturing of those who once demanded accountability from everyone except their own. And now, those contradictions were out in the open, on the table thanks to one sharp, well-timed truth bomb on live television. As the election cycle advanced, political strategists began to mention Crockett's name more often, not just as a bold voice, but as a potential rising star within the Democratic Party. The speech had given her national visibility, and her ability to stay composed amid the chaos solidified her credibility. Town halls, university lectures, and network panels began inviting her as a keynote voice. She used every platform not to brag, but to expand the discussion around honesty, gender roles, and media hypocrisy. Her book sales increased, her following grew, and her support base diversified. From suburban mothers to urban organizers, people connected with her courage. Crockett had become more than a soundbite. She had become a movement. And the more Trump raged, the more dignified and measured she appeared. In the end, the moment that started with Trump losing his temper became a defining episode of modern political history, not because it was scandalous, but because it stripped away the artifice. Jasmine Crockett stood on live television and reminded America that moral integrity isn't about slogans or staged photos. It's about how you treat people when the cameras aren't rolling. Her words forced a nation to reevaluate its tolerance for contradiction. She didn't shout, insult, or evade. She simply told the truth, and it hit with the force of 1,000 protests. Trump's fury may have made headlines, but Crockett's clarity made history. She didn't just drop a bombshell, she started a reckoning, and in doing so, reminded every American that silence is no longer an option when truth is on the line.